Hello again everyone, ETCG1 here, also known as Eric the Car Guy on some channels. And today I'd like to do a little bit of a response to the Disposable Technicians video that I did recently in regards to the LinkedIn post that I found about someone who is considering replacing a technician because he didn't have the proper certifications. And it seemed that that went off into a discussion about certification versus experience, and also a little bit about that employer himself. And I like the fact that some of you actually pointed out that from a business owner standpoint, he has to look out for his interests as well, because he invests money into his crew to have them perform work, and if that work isn't up to the standards of, like, say in this instance Toyota, and they don't sign off on the repair, well, he's kind of screwed. So he was looking for a solution to that. Now, I thought he was a bit callous in his approach. However, I think it brought up an interesting point about us technicians not being shop equipment. Now, I did some thinking about the whole argument of experience versus certification, education, and I think I've come up with a good analogy, an analogy that I at least would like to use. A lot of times, auto repair is like chasing a puppy in a completely dark room. You can hear it, it's running around, and you can chase after it, but you can't see it because it's completely dark. Education is the light switch. You flip the light switch, you're actually able to see the puppy running around inside, and you're actually able to get after him. Now, he may still run away from you, but at least you'll have some idea where to look. You'll be able to put your eyes on him. Now, experience comes in. The experienced technician will have a dog biscuit in his pocket. He'll pull out the dog biscuit and make the puppy come to him. All those things coming together make for a successful repair. I know we're talking about puppies in the dark, but I think it's a good analogy. And I would also argue that education is part of your experience, and that certification is validation of that experience. A lot of you brought up a point that I agree with, which is if you went through the trouble to get that certification, then you have some stake in your career, you have some stake in your profession, some stake in your skill set. And you've sought to prove that through certification. Now, many of you also brought up that there are people out there with lots of certifications that can't turn a wrench. And that is true. I have known that to be true. There are some people out there that are certified in many things. We'll call them book smart, that may not necessarily be as adept or just as good at performing actual physical repairs or have the common sense to do it. And I'm not trying to put people down, one way or the other. I'm just trying to point out some key facts. And actually, I'm really just addressing the points that you brought about. So where are we? Where does this leave us? Well, as far as the argument of experience versus certifications, I'm going to take certifications and call it education. Because as you know, and I think I've said this many times before, I'm a big proponent of automotive education, especially in this day and age. And going back to that employer standpoint, if you're an employer and you have a choice between somebody who has gone to school and got an automotive education and compare that to somebody who's willing to come in, start sweeping the floors and work their way up, to me that's a no-brainer. The person that is off the street that has no training is a liability. And I would not want to hire that person because they hadn't made that commitment, they hadn't made that sacrifice. Aside from that, as a shop owner, I don't want to make that investment. I don't necessarily want to take somebody by the hand and bring them up. It's not cost effective. Things are happening pretty fast these days. So to try and bring somebody up like that, I don't think that exists anymore. I don't think that there's a job out there. I could be wrong, and go ahead and tell me in the comments, but I just don't think there's a way for you, even as an experienced DIYer, someone who's worked on cars for several years at home, has a natural ability for it, I don't think it's possible for you to necessarily walk into some place and get a job like that. You might know somebody and that might work out, but I just think that that's a rare occurrence. I don't think that's something as common as it used to be, like say in the 50s and 60s, where that was actually what you did. I mean, that's in a time before ASE even. So it was kind of an unregulated Wild West kind of industry back then. But dare I say this, was there more integrity back then? It's hard to say because I wasn't even alive. But from everything my grandparents have told me, there was. And I have a tendency to believe them. All that set aside, I think, like many of you pointed out, you need a combination of both. And I also think that that education counts toward your experience. That's a part of your experience. Even though you haven't had like hands-on experience with that education, you still have a grasp, you still have a concept. That light switch, the lights are on, and you're able to see that puppy running around, as opposed to just being in the dark, just chasing it around with blind hope, hoping you find it. You might, and there's a good chance you will. But it'd be a lot easier with the lights on, and it'd be even easier if you had that dog biscuit in your pocket. I think that pretty much sums up how I feel about it. It's a combination of everything that's going to give you success in this industry. It's not any one thing. And getting back to the argument about technicians just being like shop equipment, that's something I still am very much opposed to. I don't like his approach. Many of you pointed out that the best approach would be something like, take the technician you already have and send them out for that training, rather than trying to recycle them and get somebody who already has that training. Because that's kind of a shortcut. That's like saying, I'm not willing to invest in that technician's training to make him into what he needs to be in order to get that certified repair. I'd rather just go out and get a ready-made piece of equipment or personnel and bring them into the shop and get rid of what's not working. That's the attitude I had issue with. It's not so much a question of somebody with experience and somebody with certification and the comparison between those two things. It's just the attitude of, oh, well, this one's no good, I'm gonna throw it away and get myself a different one. These are people, not shop equipment. I've already said this. But I hope this gives you some food for thought, a little more clarification on where I'm coming from. I really enjoy the discourse, the back and forth that we have with these videos, so keep your comments coming. I welcome them. Anyway, I'm Eric the Car Guy, known on this channel as ETCG1. You can find me on Google+, Twitter, and Facebook, and also always at ericthecarguy.com. And around here I close with be safe, have fun, and of course, stay dirty. Comments welcome, people.